This is the Cash Pay Podcast, the go-to show for med spas, wellness practices, and IV therapy clinics who want more profit, more clarity, and a business that actually works. I'm Hilary Small, founder of the Medspa Society, and I've helped launch and scale practices across the US, and I'm still in the day-to-day with owners just like you. Each week, we're talking real strategy, marketing, operations, patient experience, and what actually works in today's medical aesthetics landscape. Let's get into it. Welcome back to the Cash Pay Podcast. Today's episode is one I've been wanting to record for a while because I've recognized commonalities amongst all of our long-standing clients at the Medspa Society that I really want to share. We're talking about the top 5 things every $1 million plus med spa practice I've worked with has in common. And this isn't based on just what I think. It's based on what I have actually observed in the real world. It's based on my experience working with a certain level of practice and seeing how they navigate and make decisions for their business. Ultimately, they've gone into this for the most part, not to give themselves a job, but to make a difference, build a legacy, and something that will be an extremely valuable asset long term. This is based on real practices, real numbers, and long-term clients who are not just hitting 7 figures one time, but they're continuing to stay profitable and continuing to grow. Before we get into the list, I want to be very clear that this isn't about perfection and doing everything perfectly, because we all make mistakes and we all learn. However, it's about patterns, it's about the behaviors, the decisions, and the beliefs that I see over and over again in sustainable practices that are experiencing long-term growth and are not struggling. One important thing to note before we dive in, the common thread across all of these practices is that they are both growing and they are profitable. Revenue alone doesn't mean much if your margins are thin, your team is burnt out, and overall, you're just exhausted. The practices that make it past the $1 million mark, and one of our goals as the partner working with the practices when we launch them is to develop and help them develop the brand, the plan, the strategy, and the operations within the practice to help them reach 6 figures per month as quickly as possible and stay there. Practices who understand the importance of the things that need to be done to do this, they're just really built differently. So let's dive into the 5 things. I'm not going to go into extremely great detail on each one of these things. Likely we'll touch on different aspects of this in later episodes. But number 1, they understand the value of brand, perception, and consistency when it comes to marketing. They see their brand as an asset, not an expense or something that doesn't really matter, because it does. They care deeply about how they show up publicly, how clearly they communicate, and how consistent their message is across every touch point. They are the principles of the practice. The people in charge are paying attention. They're not just handing these things off unless they have an SOP or standing operating procedure in place that makes sure that the integrity of the brand, how the brand is conveyed, they are paid attention to in every aspect of marketing. They understand that marketing is not random posting. Marketing is not just Instagram. It is so much more than that. And sales is not discounting to fill the schedule. Ultimately, they are building and investing in strategy, consistency, and long-term positioning. So that's number 1. Number 2, and this is a big one, they don't cut corners to save money. Because what's going to end up happening is that when you cut corners, you're going to end up spending more in the long run to fix the things that you cut corners on to begin with. So from launch through growth, they are doing things the right way the first time. And again, it's not about perfection, but it is about being aware that you are making the right decisions for the things that you are doing and investing your time and money in, doing things the right way the first time, avoiding temporary shortcuts that become permanent problems. And I see this constantly. Practices try to save money early. They try to do a logo on Canva. And don't get me wrong, the brand is so much more than the logo, but that's what they're fixated on, is doing these things that, yes, are they exciting and you feel helping bring your vision to life? Well, what they're doing is they're wasting your time and they're wasting your money because you're not going about building the foundation of your practice the right way. So what you're going to end up doing is spending significantly more to fix the mistakes later. Cutting corners often will lead to a rebrand, platform changes. So when you're choosing your practice management system, you want to make sure that you are doing it thoughtfully and truly understanding the impact of choosing the right system and what that can do for your practice. Broken systems, and ultimately, what's it going to do? It's going to make things mayhem and confuse everybody. So what practices that I see have in common related to, cutting corners is really truly just taking the time to understand everything that you're investing your time and your money in and making smart decisions. Number 3, the founder is actively involved in the business. This is so important, especially in the beginning. And this is just the commonality that I see again among the practices that I have encountered over the many years doing this and working with. In every successful practice, the founder is either the medical director or deeply involved in daily operations. So many founders are NPs, PAs, nurses. They are ingrained in the practice. They're treating patients. They're embedded in the culture and the workflow, and they've built this business from the ground up. And again, they've done it the right way. What this does is it creates better leadership, faster decisions, stronger team accountability. Absentee ownership, especially at the early stages, almost always slows growth. Again, it is possible. There are larger companies, franchises, they have standard operating procedures and things in place to properly train the staff. That is key. If your staff is properly trained and they know there are checks and balances in place so that if you are not there, you may not be able to be there every single day. Or if you are in a situation where you have come into this business in a different way as an investor, owner, or something like that, you know that there are ways to build a successful team that carries forward your vision. That is so important, but it is also a very difficult thing to do. So number 4, they prioritize relationship building as retention. They understand that retention is not just email automations. You are in the business of treating people and their most personal things, their face, their body, how they feel. So it is so important that relationships and communication, great communication, and having a staff that understands the importance of this. It's how patients feel every time they interact with the practice. It is so important. Relationship building is modeled by leadership. It's reinforced with the staff. It's part of the culture. And this leads to a higher lifetime value. You're going to get referrals and you're going to have less reliance on constant new lead generations. Patients won't just come back, they'll stay. And it costs so much less to retain patients than to constantly be bringing in new ones. And while this is number 4, I would say this is one of the most important things that we impart on the practices that we work with is this aspect of retention. And truly, when you get the grasp of it, and it's a hybrid combination of the automations potentially that you have in place and a human. Automations, AI, all of that in this business will never take the place of human relationships. It's so important. Number 5, they are strategic about services and equipment, especially in the beginning. Investing in all of the top machines and lasers and everything may not be necessary right off the bat. Building thoughtfully. $1 million practices, they're not chasing trends. Every decision is tied to a goal, a growth goal, patient demand, provider expertise, and also the integration of wellness into aesthetics. But it all needs to be done thoughtfully and with a plan and with a strategy. So they're thinking big picture in ecosystems, not just one-off services. Trend chasing is going to lead to overloaded menus that nothing is positioned or created to work together, underused equipment, confused positioning, confused patients, confused staff, ultimately. So you need to be very thoughtful when you're adding services and equipment to your practices as the practice evolves. So those are 5 things. And yes, are there other things that lead to a long-term successful and profitable practice? Sure. But these are the things that I find to be the most important. And just to give you a bonus here, and while I said 5, I'm just going to add one more thing, is that these practices, they know their value and they don't rely on discounts. They're pricing confidently. They're communicating their value clearly. Their prospective patients and patients, clients, they understand the value of going to this place, and they're not price shopping or quickly going to the bright, shiny object. They don't train their patients to wait for promotions. One of my most successful practices that we work with, they have one big event per year, and the patients know that they're going to have that event, but they're not having discounts throughout the year. They're having this one event where they do offer packages and discounts, but they're premium packages too. They're not anything that is significantly discounted, but they're adding value. Full schedules, filling your staff schedules come from trust, results, referrals, having those before and afters, those testimonials, and ultimately experience, not constant discounting. So they're using structure, memberships, and thoughtful offers, nothing that seems desperate. And that's it. So while this has been short and sweet and may sound simple, it definitely is not. But if you understand these fundamental things and align yourselves with the right people and partners to help build your practice and grow your practice, you're going to eliminate the mistakes because other people have made them and you can learn from them. So if there's one takeaway from this episode, it's this: 7-figure med spas, they're not lucky. They are extremely intentional. They build with clarity, consistency, long-term thinking. And the good news is every one of these things is learnable. It's doable. And as you listen back to this episode, I'd encourage you to ask yourself, which of these are you already doing well? Which one deserves your attention? If this episode resonated with you, share it with a practice owner who needs to hear it. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss what's coming next. Thanks for listening to the Cash Pay podcast, and I'll see you in the next episode.